everybody, and thank you for having me here tonight. Just before I get cracking, I'll just start by introducing who I am. And actually, I am now working as a career consultant with Akademikernes A-kasse, which is an insurance company insuring people against unemployment. And our mission is very simple. Our mission is to get academics new jobs. And we do that, fortunately, every day. We have 190,000 members, and we service a little less, I think, than 5% of those who are unemployed. A little bit about myself. I have a background as management consultant and also as line manager. And when I was asked to do this, I was thinking, how many people have I actually hired over, all those years? And it amounted to something like, 250 or so. So I think I put 200. And I thought, well, that's going to be a difficult one because it's more than most people, I suppose, have hired, but it's not enough to make me, expert on hiring people. And I think I met only very, very few of those who are experts and can truly call them experts in hiring people. So it was a little bit of a challenge for me to try and collect my thoughts. What is it that I'm actually doing when I hire? This process of hiring people is, of course, not evidence-based like the process Paula was talking about with clinical trials at Novo Nordisk. This is a people process, and it's no better than the people performing it. And the people usually are the hiring manager and yourselves at the job interview. Sometimes it may be, you can see that from my statistics, that you are the more experienced of those job interviews. That's really interesting. But that also is an opportunity to take charge of that interview and that scene and the facilitation of that meeting. And I'll try to cover that later. If you want to know more about us, you can go to our website, and there's also a little video there. I will not show it now, it's just a minute or so. You can go there and have a look for yourselves. Basically what I do during the day, I help academics get jobs, and that means I talk to people, I meet up with people, and I give them advice and counselling on their job strategy, how to mobilize network, how to write a good CV and cover letter, and also I do mock interviews with candidates before they go for the real one. I have quite a good statistic for last month. I did 4 mock interviews and 3 of them landed the job. So I was very happy. I'm always happy when people get jobs, and like I said, fortunately, they do so every day. Right. The next one. I put quite a bit of information on these slides, and please don't read them now. They will be distributed to yourselves after. But I'll try to, Paula and Anne-Marie have covered some of the stuff, but I'll try to cover the rest of the stuff. And what I am covering now is how I do things and how I would like to see people do things when I hire them. So what is it takes to get hired by me? So you've now landed the interview, and we'll have a look at that process. preparation, of course, for any job interview is key, and there is quite a few things actually that you can do to prepare yourself, quite well for the interview. Obviously, you go to the website and you look at the company you're applying with and their website. Unfortunately, there's no bonus points for that because I will be expecting you to have done that anyway, and I'll be expecting questions from candidates relating to some of the stuff in there that's relevant for the role, the position that you're seeking. So it's not going to give you extra points, but it's not so good if you do not, if I can sense that you haven't been to the web page. You need also to find out the job description, of course, when you get called for interview with me. It's like, I think it was Anne-Marie said, that you have to solve my problems. That's exactly what it takes to get an interview with me. Because before you actually apply, you call me, and the reason you call me is not so that you can write in your cover letter that you talked to me 3 weeks ago, because I will not remember, and I would probably have been pissed when you called anyway, so you don't want to remind me. But the reason is that you want to know what my most important, most urgent task is for this job. And then you tell me how you solve it. That's how you get selected for interview with me. Right? Then there is a paragraph there called personality points. And that can be lots of things. It can be things that you want to tell me about, questions you ponder, things you'd like me to know within the role, within the job that I'm offering. So if it's, like it says here, sales job, I want to know what kind of sales have you been involved with? Have you been, is it retail, is it business to business, and how have you gone about it? How do you make, a business plan? How do you work together with finance, and so on? All of these points you might want to consider before you go for the interview. I think also the interview format is very important for you to find out. And there is really no, and I have to say that I was looking, I've been hiring so many people, and I thought, well, you must have some kind of, fixed process for this. But I'm sorry to say that I haven't. But most interviews that I've done, I think, would be a first interview where I interview people for the job. So I'm looking then to match that person and that personality with that role and with that team in which the job is positioned. Sometimes I've let HR do some screening first, not always. I can't remember why. They probably said, shall we do the screening? And I would say, yeah, please, if you'd like. And they've sent out some stuff, personality stuff, and I'll get back to that, examples of what they can be. You have to find out also, of course, who will be at the interview. So if it's going to be me, I'm going to be expecting everything there is to know about me. And I'm going to be expecting, if I have an HR person with me, that you know that person and that the role of that person. So I'll be expecting, to get the main focus from you and less focus on the HR person. But this is how I would expect you to go about an interview with me. Next one is, I think Anne-Marie was on about this, and I couldn't agree more, than it's very important to know your own preferences. And I don't know, I've been recruiting people in the UK, in the US, in this country, and particularly in the US, people know themselves. They know their strengths. They know what their strengths are. In this country, Denmark, people do not. And you're a mixed bunch of people, and there'll probably be, you know, a little bit of both out there. So it's quite normal to, for companies to send out a personality test. That test will go out either before the first interview or after the first interview, before the second interview, and it's going to be serving as a platform for typically more HR-related business and questions. I put their personality type test, but it isn't really a test, it's a preference. So in this preference, it's the Myers-Briggs, and I put the link to a discount version of it here, which you can do for free. There are 4 parameters that get measured, and as you probably now sussed out, 16 different ways of personalities will pan out. So that this is not a preference where one preference is better or worse for any given position. They're just different. But you might get personality tests that are important for that particular role. For instance, there's a test called DISC, and DISC is a test where you actually score the job. HR, they score the job with the hiring manager before, and you get a certain profile for that job, and then you score the person. And if there is a good fit there, you know, that's very good. I don't think that I have ever been in a situation where I have not hired a person because of, you know, a certain outcome of a personality preference test like this. But they have served as good tools for dialogue. So I know many people are uncertain about them, and some people even fear them, but there's no need to fear them. It will give you, anyhow, it will give you great insight to who you are, and that is useful, you know, in life in general, to know who you are. So don't be afraid of those. Some companies, they use logic tests, and logic tests, they are different. And I don't know really how I feel about them. I'll tell you a story about myself and the logic test. I was talking to a guy from AP Muller, and I know that they've been doing the same logic test for 50 years or so, and I tried it, not quite 50 years ago, but, you know, many years ago, and I scored, you know, quite high. I can't remember how high, but it was quite high. And I said to this guy, but that's the piece of cake. I mean, if you still go with that one, I mean, you know, anyone can do it. Well, I could do it. Anyone can do it. And he said to me, I bet you can't do it now. And I said, sure I can. And he sent me the link, and I think you have to get 25 right, you know, otherwise I won't speak to you anymore. And I got 24. And he said to me, that happens when you get old. Not because you get old, but because you're not used to doing it. So here is a very good piece of advice that I'd like to share with you, and that is that you can actually practice the logic tests. Because what you do, if you're afraid of logic tests, or if you go to AP Muller-Mesk for interview, then you know you get it. Then you just go to the internet. I'll put a link there, and you do as many as you can of those. And if you do 10 of those, you will pass AP Muller's test. There's a nodding over here from the Danfoss man, so you know what I'm talking about. That's
I'm not working in Danfoss, just
okay. Okay, but that is that is a piece of advice that I would think you could benefit from. Then there are some companies who will present you with a little case. I've done it quite frequently actually, and I found it very, very good thing to do. When I've done it, I've sent out to the candidate before a dilemma, a problem that I'm currently facing in the company, and that serves as a very good platform for dialogue, because I'm getting free consultancy services. You know, I would have to pay McKinsey or someone else, you know, millions to do that. So I'm happy, and if you do it the right way, you will be happy too. And the right way, of course, is not to look at the solution, but to look at the process, to look at the components in the challenge. What is the challenge? Where are the pitfalls? What are the pros? What are the cons? What's the risk? What timeline are we looking at? All that sort of thing, you know, cost benefit, all that good stuff. So that can be a very good platform to work from. But the logic test, do some on the internet, and the personality type test, my advice is always be true to yourself, and that means do it quick. So if you're asked a question, the quicker you do it, the better, because it's intuitive. It's like if you're right-footed and someone passes the ball, you know, you do this if you're right-footed, and you do this if you're left-footed, intuitively. That's the way you should approach it. Because there are no right, there are no wrong ways, just different ways. Okay? Now, here are some of the questions that you might encounter. I was thinking about what questions, you know, can you get asked? And I mean, we heard, I think I couldn't agree more with your example. And different people will have different examples of difficult questions, stupid questions, HR questions, whatever you like to call them. But you can prepare for them. And I think a good way to do it, personally, is if you go to the internet, you go to some of those job sites, you will find a battery of those questions, 100, 200 questions. What I suggest you do is you go and pick the 15 or so, 10 or 15 questions that you would like the least to get asked at the job interview. Then you pick those questions, you think about what you're going to answer, and the day before you go to the interview, you go behind the computer and you write down 2 sentences, right? And that's going to be your answer. The question that you raised, I did a mock interview 2 months ago, and there was a person sitting in front of me, and I asked that stupid question, and the person just kept, you know, babbling on about. I thought of it as a closing question. You know, the interview was finished. I thought it would be good, you know, way to wrap up the interview. I was ready to hire the person, in inverted commas, because it wasn't a real thing, but I was ready to tell him, you know, I would hire you if I were the hiring manager. And then he started to talk about this question, you know, and he went on, look at my watch, he went on for 4.5 minutes. And I just had to say, you know, until I asked that question, I would have hired you. But I'm afraid you just talked yourself out of that job. It was a good thing for him, because he was going for the real thing 2 days after, so he had time to adjust, and he actually got the job. That's a good ending to that story. But that's the best way, and that you can prepare a lot more than you think you can for those interviews.
I want to ask, what was he talking about? Was it nonsense, or you just didn't like?
The question apparently triggered something in him when he went into defense mode, and he was trying to not say something nasty about a former boss or whatever, you know. And he was on the defense, and he was babbling on, and it was clearly something that meant something to him emotionally. And but it spoiled his chances completely with me, because I was I was not in tune after that. So right. Now we come to the interview itself, and the reason I put this this picture here is I can only tell you how you should do it with me, because I'm not so used to it. I've done a couple of hundred, but it's been over, you know, many years. If I'm in the room with you and I come down and collect you for interview, I think you should imagine that if I come in the door to the interview room, and if you were to ask me, what if I asked you about your general level of well-being right now? What would your answer be? And I'll tell you what it would be. It would be not so good. Why is that? Well, it's a situation that is really not real. I'm outside of my comfort zone. HR said to me, remember to ask him that stupid question. You know, I thought, what question? And and all the, you know, all of that funny business goes on. And so my general level of well-being is not so high. So my hand would probably go somewhere here in the yellow. And your only task at that meeting with me is that when I walk out that door, I'll put my hand up here. Why is that? It's because if I put my hand up there, and you have raised my general level of well-being, I want to spend more time with you. If I want to spend more time with you, it means that I want to see you again. Right? We talked about what happens at the interview, and to be honest, all that business about your qualifications and stuff has been done if I'm the one to select for interview. It has been done already. It's not like in the UK. In the UK it's different. In the UK you will challenge people. You will say, you wrote this in your resume. Tell me about that. Can you stand by that? You know, how do you do this? How do you do that? I would never say that, and I believe most Danish recruiters that I know of will not challenge you on that. What I will challenge you on is if you can make me feel good, if you can convince me that you can contribute to the team. I know the team, you do not know the team. That's maybe an advantage, it may not be. If you can convince me of that, and if you can be likable, I know you're competent because I read your CV, I've selected you for interview, for Christ's sake. So there's no need to belabor the point. Then you will you'll stand a very high chance with me. Right? I think it's also I think it was Anne-Marie who said that the shortest distance between two people is a smile. I think it's very important that you smile at me. I think it's important you make me relax and feel good. I know it sounds completely the reverse of what you maybe were expecting, because you were expecting me to be the expert, but the fact is I'm not. You know, if you've been for 10 interviews for the last 2 months, you've been to more interviews than I've done in the last 2 years. You know, so you're the more experienced. You have to guide me, make me feel good, facilitate the meeting, so it's a good meeting. Right? Does that make sense? I know Casper's going to kill me for this, but I'm an online man, so I mean, if you will have trouble, give us feedback. I'd be much obliged. Our consultants at Akademikernes do a lot of stuff like this, and we do it in our free time. So if you've gotten anything from this, please feel free to give us a little feedback. And I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Morten, thank you so much. And I'm not going to kill you this time.
Okay.
Just rest assured.
Maybe there are questions.
We are sharing the slides, and you go to the last slide, and you click on the link, and you go to that website, and you fill out the form. And then we're all happy, right? Questions?
Everything was crystal clear. No.
Actually, how can we find the weak point of any company that are looking for a job? You said that we should be prepared for the problem they have, and we are going to solve the problem for them. So how can we find their problem? Because they would not say anything about the problem they have on their websites.
Maybe I wasn't clear on that, and that's a very good question. It's actually the key how to get selected for interview. That is to call me on the telephone. Call me. If you call a Danish person who's a manager, I'll tell you what his day looks like. He's in back-to-back meetings all day. So even if I have invited you to call me for more information on the job, it doesn't mean I'm not going to get pissed when you do, because I'll be between 2 meetings. But you don't care, because you want to find out what is my most important task, the most important thing on my radar for this role. And that is not necessarily going to be in the job posting. You will have to find that out, and then you tell me how you're going to be solving that in the first 10 lines. That's how to get selected for interview with me.
I have a question. So after the job interview, what we can do the best?
After the job interview, yeah, that's it.
After I send you the CV.
It's when you go for a job interview with me, I will call anyone who doesn't get the job and tell them, sorry you didn't get the job. If you want to get feedback that you can use going forward, I'm afraid you have to press me very hard.
Yeah.
A very good way to, because Danish people are scared to say the wrong thing. They can't say, maybe it's because I think you're going to get pregnant, or, they're very, they shy away from all that business, and I do too. So I would shy away, and I would try not to answer. But if you ask a question like, can you please tell me, because it's important to me in the future, what I should have done differently to land the job. If you ask me a question like that, then you force me to I can't give you a generic answer to that. I can't say it's because you didn't have experience, because I read your resume, right? Mm-hmm. And I can see your experience. Mm-hmm. So I can't say that to you. You have to force me. But with me, you have to do that. And I suspect that with many other managers, you have to force them even more to get feedback that you can use. And I think you deserve it because it will take you about a day and a half to get me on the line.
Okay.
Because I'm always at meetings, remember?
Yeah.
So you deserve to get something from me that you can use going forward.
Yeah. But do you think it's a good idea to follow up after the job interview?
You should always follow up. No, oh, you mean after the job interview, before I make my decision?
Yeah, I just follow up. I express my interest. Would that be annoying?
Yeah, it might be. It might be. It might be with me. I'm very easy to annoy, and I'm very good at showing it. But that's why. I mean, if you have barriers about calling about the job, then use a different name, because it's not your name that's important. It's the information. You know, it's not your name. I'm not going to remember you anyway, because when I do the screening, it's 3 or 4 weeks from now. So I've forgotten everything about you. And if I can remember you, it was you who spoiled my chance to get a coffee between the 2 meetings, and I'm not going to be too happy about that. Right?
I actually have a follow-up question about that. For example, instead of calling, like let's say that you mail a small thank you note and say, thank you, I really appreciate the interview, so on, so on, and will that be in the same category of annoying as well?
It's impossible to give generic answers to this. I can only say how I would react. I mean, if we're going to have a mock interview after this, and if somebody said to me at the interview, you know, I really want this job, and I even went so far as to do a mock interview before 150 people, that would be a good thing to say to a person like me. I would say, wow, that's this guy really wants this. You know, that would be good. But it is very, it's very difficult. But you should always, before you send application, you should always call me. And I'll tell you, I was trying to think how many people actually called me before, how many people got through to me. And that I think would be less than 10%. And of those 10%, less than 25% asked the right question.
Yes.
Lots of people, you know, because they are a guy 25 years old who never hired a person in their life, they don't know the process. So they say, well, then you can write, you know, you spend the first 5 lines writing, you know, how pleased you were talking to me 3 weeks ago. How do you think that'll make me feel? Right. Not very good.
Sorry.
I have a question about the company culture. If in our research we realize something specific about company culture,
Yeah.
What is your idea to Thank you. What is your idea to apply for 2 job positions in the same company?
Depends on the company. You're an engineer, I guess, and
No,
Okay, you're talking about Danish, an engineering company. I was reading an article in The Engineer recently where they talked. They interviewed some person from Novo Nordisk. I work for Novo Nordisk, and this chap said, you know, his key message was that he urged people, you know, if we reject you, apply again. You know, don't get, you know, defensive. Don't get so disappointed you don't apply again. Apply again. And I think I know the reason he said it. It's because unemployment in this country for engineers is about 2.8, and 2.0 is full employment. So he was anxious that you know, he couldn't fit the bill. But yes, generally speaking, there's no obstacle in doing that. There is one exception, I think, where you should really think, and that is if you're a PhD and if you have two career tracks that you're pursuing, one academic and one corporate. I think you should think about whether that's a good thing to do. But that's maybe your job strategy that should be adjusted. I don't necessarily think that would be a good idea with Novo Nordisk to have one academic CV of 20 pages and then next door maybe 2-pager corporate position. I don't think that would be a good idea. But other than that, yes, no problem.
Last question.
I want to ask, in an interview, you're supposed to be yourself. How do you react when people are very prepared for the questions and they do it like by heart, just, oh, you asked me that, where do I imagine myself after 5 years, and then blah, 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 blah. Is it better to be very prepared or not prepared? I mean, where is the best?
Yeah, it's remember the feel-good thing before. It's always best to be prepared. But if you think about the stupid questions that you've prepared, then if I ask this, you know, I'll probably feel very uncomfortable because I'll suddenly remember, you know, that HR said, "What's your strongest point?" You know, and I'll suddenly burst it out, you know, and you know, afraid that I'll be forgetting it. And then, you know, the more stupid the question, the more you smile, and you make me relax, and I'll say, "Oh, maybe that was not so stupid," and then you just, you know, keep the flow in the dialogue, in the conversation, so you don't get these abrupt monologues. You know, that's what sometimes happens in the beginning. I'll be telling you 15 minutes about the company, then I'll say, "Tell me a little about yourself," and then you'll babble on for 10 minutes. So 20 minutes into the 35 minutes job interview has consisted of 2 monologues. So when I say something, you say, "That's interesting, you know, do you have an example?" So the only no-go with me is do never ask a question you're not sure I cannot answer. Particularly if HR is there with me. Right? Always ask questions I can answer.
Thank you so much, Morten. So, and now